What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lunch Table Sports Podcast. In today's video, I'm going to be going over some of my fantasy football sleepers at each position. So it's been about a week since the last video. I apologize for that. A lot of football going on. I'm entering my junior season of football at my high school, so a lot of that going on. So I apologize for not the consistent uploads, but we'll make sure to try and get back to that this upcoming week. But yeah, football season's right around the corner. I want to jump into some fantasy football content. Fantasy football is one of my favorite hobbies, and I do pay a ton of attention to this. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents on some of my sleepers in this video. So without further ado, let's jump into my first sleeper, and that comes from the quarterback position. And my big sleeper in the quarterback position is Trey Lance. Trey Lance, I think, is in a very quarterback-friendly offense with Kyle Shanahan. We know is a quarterback whisperer. He's gotten that reputation around the league. He'll be jumping into his first year as a full-time starter, so I may advise to not draft him as your full-time starting quarterback, but just to take a shot on a guy to come off the bench. I think Trey Lance can have tremendous upside in this fantasy football season and in real life. They're going to use him a ton in the ground game. He's going to play a major role in that ground attack for the 49ers. He has Debo. They're able to figure out that contract situation with Debo in the offseason. So he's got one of the top targets coming back on the team. According to training camp, he's kind of made a strong bond with Brandon Ayuk. So I think that could be something to look out for in this upcoming season, their connection going forward. George Kittle's back and healthy. So he definitely has a good team around him, a good, solid old line. Trey Lance is absolutely set up for success, and then he's got all the talent in the world. He's got a strong arm. He's fast. He's going to be used in every way possible, and Kyle Shanahan knows how to ease him in there, just to make him comfortable as possible. So I'm really excited to see what he can do going forward. My next two guys aren't as big as sleepers, but they're guys who I think can outperform their projected kind of fantasy projection is Kirk Cousins. In my opinion, the Minnesota Vikings are one of the most underrated teams in the NFL. They are currently my pick to win the NFC North, and especially with their new head coaching hire, who is the former offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams. This offense is going to be super explosive. They have all the pieces. They just really need that coach to really take them to the next level, and I think this guy has it. They got all the weapons apiece: Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith, who I like a ton. Unfortunately, he got hurt last year. Dalvin Cook. So I'm super excited to see how Kirk Cousins does under this new scheme. I think he has potential to be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy football this year. I think he can be a reliable starter when it comes down to it. I wouldn't necessarily say I'd draft Kirk to be your QB1 right off the bat, but I'd draft him to be a high-end backup. Just a guy you can take a shot on late in the draft who's going to be a safe pick. He's going to be a good fantasy football quarterback, but I think he can outplay that production and end up being a top 10 quarterback. Same goes for our next guy here, and that's Derek Carr. Raiders made a ton of moves in the offseason, bringing in the best receiver in football, in my opinion, Devontae Adams. And he gets his guy from Fresno State as well. They already have that connection. Also to go alongside that continuing bond between him and Hunter Renfrow, which was put on full display last year. And I've really liked the Raiders offseason. Josh Jacobs is only going to get better. They also got Kenyon Drake. A good 1-2 punch there. They got Darren Waller. O-line's a little iffy, but I do think Derek Carr will have a really good year this year. And I think the Raiders are definitely going to see much more improvement. And I think Carr can be a serviceable fantasy football quarterback. And I think he's in the same boat as Cousins. I kind of have him as the same kind of projection as he's a high-end backup, but I think if everything goes right, he does have the potential to be a top 10 in fantasy football. So next position we're going to move on to is the running back position. And I have 3 deep sleepers in my projections, and I got 2 guys who I think who can outplay their projections. I'm going to jump into their 2 guys who I think can outplay their projections, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. I've been doing a lot of mock drafts lately, and Ezekiel Elliott's really going kind of late 3rd round, and that's kind of surprising me because he is still a high-end running back in the NFL. I label him as a high-end RB2 in fantasy football, or a low-end RB1 even. I think the ZK has kind of gotten out of hand. He's still one of the top running backs in the NFL. And if he's there in the even late second round, early third, I would absolutely take Ezekiel Elliott. And I think the Zeke disrespect has kind of gotten out of hand. I do think Tony Pollard, that's the reason why he's getting this kind of hate. But Tony Pollard's going to do his own thing and Zeke's going to do his own thing. I don't think that's going to take too much away from Zeke. So I do think Zeke's definitely a guy to not completely stay away from. And I think he's getting too much hate going forward. Another guy I want to talk about is Nick Chubb. And I don't know where this came in from. In my opinion, he's a top three. He's the third best running back in football right now. And I see Nick Chubb going around the same area as Zeke, maybe a little higher. But in my opinion, Nick Chubb's easily a second round pick in fantasy football this year, maybe even high second round. He missed a few games last year with injury that kind of put a knock on his stats. But he's an absolute tough runner. He's going to get the majority of the carries in Cleveland. Yeah, they have Kareem Hunt, but Nick Chubb's that dude in that offense. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And I just seeing where his projections are and all that, I just wanted to come out and say, don't be scared to take Nick Chubb earlier in the second round and earlier where his projection is at. And start off one of my deep sleepers is Pierre Strong from New England. Now, Pierre Strong was a 4th or 5th round pick, I want to say 4th or 5th round out of South Dakota. I really liked him in this draft too. And from recent reports, it looks like James White is going to start off the season on the injured list. And from all these Patriots news outlets, it's looking like Pierre Strong's kind of getting that receiving back role in that offense that James White had before he went down with injury. And he's been taking snaps to RB1s even. So I'm super excited about Pierre Strong going forward. Patriots loved him in the draft is what I heard, and they definitely want to utilize him going forward. They got Ramondre Stevenson there too, who put excellent last year, and Damian Harris too. So I think that maybe could put some people to say, yeah, I'm going to stick away from Pierre Strong. But as a late round flyer, maybe as your last pick in the draft, just to get him off the bench. I mean, I think he could be a guy who people are looking to pick up in the waiver wires as soon as week 1 or 2. So he's definitely a sleeper for me. Next up, I also got a rookie running back in Rachaad White from Tampa Bay. Here. Rachaad White. Yeah. So Rachaad White was a 3rd round pick, running back from Arizona State. I liked him a ton in the draft too. He's a super fast running back. And especially with all this Leonard Fournette news coming out really that he's 260 pounds. He posted something that, yeah, he's cutting it down to 245, but that's 245 still, it's a big time weight for a running back to attain that speed. So if that's the case and the Bucs are unhappy with him, Rachaad White, I think at the end of the season, he'll be the RB2 in this Buccaneers offense. And they've shown they like to run 2 running backs a lot. As Fournette kind of went down with injury last year, Ronald Jones started to get a lot more snaps, but also Keyshawn Vaughn did as well. And I think that shows really they want to be playing these 2 running back system. And I think Rachaad White can get a lot of these carries, can steal some carries from Leonard Fournette and get the majority of the passes out of the backfield. So I really like Rachaad White in this draft, and I'm definitely saying you should draft him in your bench, and that is a must for me in my drafts. My last kind of deep sleeper here at running back is Kenneth Gainwell from the Eagles. He definitely had some games last year where he some 14 or 15-point games last year. But due to recent reports, the Eagles are playing him at RB1. He's splitting carries with Miles Sanders. So that's definitely something to look out for fantasy football. He is mainly a receiving back, but he also can run the ball very good. I think Kenneth Gainwell could be that receiving back in this Eagles offense. And with all these weapons they're getting, I think Kenneth Gainwell and the other running backs aren't getting enough respect. So Kenneth Gainwell is another guy to look out for. Jumping into my next position here are the wide receiver positions. I got 4 guys who I think who could outplay their current draft production, and I got 3 deep sleepers. My first deep sleeper is Nico Collins. Nico Collins is going to be the wide receiver 2 on this team. He's going to be the second target in this offense. I really liked him a ton coming out of Michigan, not just because I'm a Michigan fan, but also because he's a big body receiver and he's also pretty fast. He runs a 4.4 40 for that size. Being 6'4", he's a jump ball receiver. And it sucks what happened to John Mechie. All prayers go to him Just you never want to see that, especially out of a rookie, first year guy. You just hate to see it. But that just means more targets for Nico Collins. And I am a Davis Mills believer. I really liked him as quarterback coming out of Stanford. I think he has a ton of talent. And I do think he'll do good in this Texans offense this year. But I think Nico Collins could be one of the top targets for him. And nobody's really talking about him a ton. So I just wanted to bring some attention onto him. And I think he could be a late round target. I got 2 rookies coming up. My first one here is Jalen Tolbert for Dallas. With Michael Gallup really kind of being hurt a lot of his career so far, Jalen Tolbert has the potential to be wide receiver 2 on this team with an injured Gallup. And it's one of the top passing attacks in the league last year. You got Dak coming back again. This O-line will start off healthy. And so I'm excited to see what Jalen Tolbert can do in this offense. And if Gallup's hurt, he could potentially be that wide receiver 2 this season. My last receiver here is Wan'Dale Robinson from New York. This is another guy who's in a very crowded receiver room with the guys with the likes of Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney, Kenny Galladay. So it's definitely going to struggle for snaps, but he's been making plays at Giants training camp. He's already kind of running with that ones group out there for New York. So they took him in the second round. They obviously love him a lot. He's got so much speed and playmaking potential. So this is a guy who I'd try and target later in the draft, who might not necessarily produce so much right away, but he could pay off in the long run. And I think you could see a similar season to kind of what Kadarius Toney was putting up, where he had that 30-point game against the Chiefs last year. All right, start off my list of guys who I think who can outperform their projection is Michael Pittman Jr. He's kind of being targeted as a late 3rd guy, early 4th, and I think he could be outplay that projection and potentially be a top 10 receiver in fantasy football this year, maybe even higher than that, because we saw last year that he was a very good football receiver. He had over 1,000 yards, definitely outplayed all of his projections last year. And he's going from Carson Wentz to an even better quarterback in Matt Ryan. One of the things Matt Ryan likes to do is just spam his top guys. We saw it in Atlanta, whether it was Julio or Calvin Ridley, he really liked to get the ball to them, and he gets the ball to his playmakers. Michael Pittman's the top target in that offense. So I think with coming in with an improved quarterback in Matt Ryan, I think Michael Pittman will see a drastic increase of targets, even better from last year. Next guy I got is Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton, kind of in the same scenario as Michael Pittman, where he has a improved quarterback coming over. And apparently from reports that have been coming out, Cortland Sutton's been that guy for Russell Wilson. And we see it all the time. Tyler Lockett was that guy for Russell Wilson in Seattle. And we saw how big of fantasy football years he had in years past. So Cortland Sutton, getting that news about him, you absolutely love to see it. He's a Pro Bowl receiver not too long ago. Struggled last year with the bad quarterback situation, but I think he'll bounce back this year. Next up, I got Robert Woods. He is going way later than I anticipated in some of the mock drafts, and he's kind of been drafted as a low end wide receiver 2 and a high flex option, whereas I think he's a high end wide receiver 2 in fantasy football. He's a top wide receiver on this Tennessee Titans team. They don't got a bad quarterback at all. Ryan Tannehill's a serviceable quarterback and was a Pro Bowl quarterback not long ago. They're definitely a rushing attack, but I think you could see really good production out of Robert Woods, and I think he can be that steady Eddie guy in fantasy football, getting you 14, 15 points a game. So I definitely like Robert Woods a ton in this draft. One of the safest wide receivers, in my opinion. And last up, I just want to shout out Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman, what's looking like is he's the wide receiver 1 in this Kansas City Chiefs offense. They're looking for him to definitely step into that Tyreek Hill role. It'll be really hard to replace Tyreek, but I think Mecole Hardman can fill that gap as best as he can. He's got so much speed. He just takes the top off defenses. So I think Mecole Hardman, too, is a very big sleeper for this upcoming season, especially in this Kansas City Chiefs offense, which we know to be one of the top in the NFL. And the 3 tight ends here I just want to talk about. First up is Mike Gesicki. Shout out to Dan Orlovsky on ESPN, who kind of really sparked this Mike Gesicki movement out of me. I'm a big fan of Mike Gesicki after listening to what he had to say about him. I completely agree with him. he said with the addition of Tyreek Hill and also to go alongside Jalen Waddle, that's just going to completely take the top off defenses. And you're going to see it similar to Kansas City, whereas Travis Kelce, with all that speed receivers just going down the field, taking the top off, Travis Kelce would just sit in the middle and be Mahomes' guy, just boom, boom, get it to him. I think Mike Gesicki could be that for Tua. And he's a total athlete. He's way more athletic than Travis Kelce. So I don't think he will be as good as Travis Kelce. But I definitely think he's a sleeper to potentially be a top 5 tight end in fantasy football this year. Next up is Hayden Hurst. While I don't think Hayden Hurst will be a top tight end fantasy football, I think he could have similar production to CJ Uzama last year. Hayden Hurst was a top 10 tight end fantasy football a couple years ago for the Atlanta Falcons. He was my tight end on my team, so he was pretty serviceable for me there. I think he can do the same in this Bengals offense. CJ Uzama had a couple 20-point games last season. He's just a solid tight end for the Bengals, so I think he can definitely refill that role. He's proved that he can be that serviceable tight end option. So I just think getting a guy who maybe high-end backup tight end, low-end starter can just be a solid guy. And then wrapping up this list, I got Cole Kmet, Chicago Bears tight end. He is going to be the number 1 option in this, or number 2 option in this offense. You got Darnell Mooney 1, and then he's number 2. And he showed that he kind of started to get a bond with Justin Fields going at the end of this year. And I do think that'll pick up at the beginning of this year. And, you don't have that much talent on the Chicago Bears offense. So I think this offensive staff is going to try to utilize all the possible talent they have. I think definitely Cole Kmet fits that. But that just kind of wraps up my list here. These are some of my sleepers I have at each position. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments some of your sleepers and if you liked any of mine, and let me know what videos kind of you guys want to see next in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video.